With inflation on the rise, financial literacy skills have become a necessity for income earners of all ages. These skills include creating a budget, understanding how credit works, and saving for retirement. We'll be speaking with experts on how to do just that and more next on WNIN Newsmakers. Financial literacy can be a daunting topic to many, especially when deciding where to begin. We're joined by Ben Juergens of Old National Bank. Ben will be giving us an overview on the subjects of financial literacy and also financial empowerment. Ben, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amy. Good to be here.
So describe to us, what exactly is financial literacy and what does that entail?
Yeah, so in my words, financial literacy is really the ability to understand financial skills. It's just that concept of becoming literate on finances. And in the world of financial empowerment is more of, really having the ability and the knowledge to be in control of your finances, and so that your finances aren't controlling you.
So when we talk about how important it is for financial literacy, do you really move from literacy to empowerment as you create and build those skills? Is that correct?
Absolutely. So financial literacy is really just that, understanding what a budget is, what credit is. But the empowerment side is really being able to take control of that knowledge and apply it to yourself and be financially empowered to let you be in control of your money.
So I know you mentioned budgeting and some of the elements. So what are some of the elements that you like to focus on whenever you're talking with people about financial literacy?
Yeah, first and foremost, and the one that I get requested to talk the most on, is budgeting. And people think a lot of times, they say, Ben, why do I need a budget, right? It's a spending plan. I know what I make and so forth. But I will tell you from recent statistics, I think there was a study here done in 2022 that said 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And most people think, Amy, if I made more money, I'd be good to go. 48% of those individuals make more than $100,000 a year and say they live paycheck to paycheck. So in my personal opinion, regardless of where we fall on the economic ladder, budgeting is the #1 thing that all families and individuals need to do.
Well, it's so easy if you're not keeping a budget, it's so easy to not know where your money is going, right? And now, more than ever, we have so many things at our fingertips to help us budget. Are there any types of apps, or I know I'm old school, so I put it all either on writing it down or on an Excel spreadsheet. But how do you get people started on something like that?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is being aware of where our money goes, right? So I could ask most people and say, how many of us have ever ran out of money before we got paid again? And almost everyone would raise their hand at one time. The key is because we don't know where that money is typically going. So to your point, where can we use budget? I like Excel spreadsheets as well, but most of the younger generation looks towards apps, right? So I say first and foremost, talk to your bank, talk to your credit union, and most of them have built-in applications within their mobile app that actually track your spending for you. But it's those little items that can add up to be a lot over time.
Yeah, it's pretty eye-opening, isn't it? Because you can blow a lot of money on fast food or going out to eat or something like that and not even realize it. So how important is financial literacy, especially in the day and age of inflation and rising costs and all types of different factors that are coming into play?
Oh, it's huge. So, inflation, as you mentioned, I've seen range between 8.3 and 8.6% as of late. So when those costs seem to go up, and if we keep up our current spending habits, it can really push us to spend on revolving credit cards, that debt that's going to have a high interest rate that can really affect us later. Many times people will, borrow money now to pay for things later. So it's one of those things that might sound okay in concept, but if we get behind and develop poor spending habits, it can really come back to bite us, because even small traditional purchases on a daily commute to work at $5 a cup of coffee, for example. If I continue that habit every day during the work week and for my working lifetime, you're going to equate that to around 50 grand, and that's assuming that inflation doesn't occur with that standard cup of coffee every morning.
Right. Well, and for parents, this kind of literacy really needs to start young, right? So what do we do as parents in terms of how do we talk to our kids about financial literacy, about saving, and how do we get them excited and interested in learning about managing their money rather than just, I got my allowance, so I'm going to go blow it?
Right. That's a great question. So most parents that I've talked to are a little hesitant to talk to their kids about money because they feel it's my money. I don't want my kids to know everything that I'm doing.
Right.
I couldn't disagree more. I think it's very key. So I sit down, I've got 4 kids, 10, 7, 5, and almost 2. And with my older kids, we do sit down and we pay the bills together and we teach them, say, this is where, we can't do this because these are some of the priorities we have, right? You want to go to college, you want to go on vacation. In order to do that, we have to understand where our money's going and how we can maybe cut some expenses. So I like the idea of using teachable moments to work with young children and saying, here's what happens in the summer months with our utility bill. If we want this to go down, here's some things we got to do, because most people are kind of welcomed into whether it be college life or the adult world, so to speak, and we learn by trial and error.
Right.
And so I think it's a big opportunity that we can use these teachable moments with our kids. I would say from the age of 6 and up is a great place to start. You can teach younger, but I think they really start to grasp that concept in that early to 5th grade through 6th grade. It really becomes real and they're open to listening because they want money as well.
Well, in your role, you actually do workshops and you'll partner with employers.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. If an employer or someone is looking to have a workshop at their organization, how can they do that?
Yeah, so we designed Real Life Finance, ONB's curriculum that we utilize, and we offer it for kids aged pre-K through 2nd grade through 5th. Middle school, high school, and adults. So we partner with schools from the young to the high school to the collegiate level. We do work a lot with employers as well. I think a study that I saw last year was one of the #1 benefits that employers were looking at was to adapt some type of financial empowerment or education curriculum. And the reason being is when people are struggling with finances at the workplace, they're distracted, they're not performing as well. So they're looking to solutions to offer that to their employees. So we partner all the time with companies, and we can go speak in person, or we've even also developed a e-learning platform for those maybe not as hesitant to talk about money in person, especially maybe with their boss around. Right. So an ability to do that as well in a self-paced environment.
And they can do that by going on to Old National Bank's website.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website. You can register to enroll your employees there, or and all the results come to me, so I will contact them directly, and we can schedule those either in person or e-learning workshops.
Great information. Thank you so much for being with us, Ben.
Thank you, Amy.
We're now joined by John Razor of Fifth Third Bank. John will be speaking with us about properly handling income from early in one's career and into retirement. John, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So tell us, I know we should start early. Are there certain financial milestones or certain time that you should start thinking about saving for retirement and really increasing your financial stability, especially in this age of people, really living paycheck to paycheck?
Absolutely. When I do financial education around the area, I love talking to young people because the earlier we can catch them and get them into those saving habits and to just keeping finances top of mind, the more likely they are to be successful in the long run. So I think the earlier you start, the better. When I talk to high school students, I always tell them once you start working, you're going to want to figure out how to retire, right? So things like 401k match from an employer are huge. Mm-hmm. You want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that because that's free money. In a lot of instances, if you're able to put 2 or 3% of your paycheck into your 401k, your company will match it, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't take advantage of that, you're just leaving free money on the table. So, and if you do it early while you're working, you'll get used to spending what goes into your checking account, and that kind of automatic savings will just happen, and it'll compound and it'll build over time. Right. And the earlier you can start doing that, the better, really.
So if some of our viewers know some people who might be a little struggling with some finances and they're thinking, gosh, I don't know how I can save for something 30 years down the road whenever I need to pay for something right now. What are some easy kind of small steps that someone can do in order to make that seem more attainable to them?
Absolutely. I think starting off with small goals is very important. So something like a $500 emergency savings account. Mm-hmm. If you think about, I like to start at that. If that's everyone's first goal, you think something going wrong with your car or something breaking down at your house, right? It can turn a small, it can turn something that could be a real emergency where you're scrambling to figure out how to pay something into just an inconvenience because you can move that money over, pay for that repair or whatever that inconvenience may be, and then rebuild your savings account. So getting an emergency savings account in place should be your first goal. Right. Once you're doing that, once you have that established, once you're taking advantage of 401k matches through your employer or something of that nature, then it's time to talk to a licensed professional about things like IRAs, Roth IRAs, brokerage accounts, things of that nature. But until you've got your emergency savings and you're taking full advantage of your 401k match, then it's time to talk to a professional after you've met those goals.
So that's kind of the early milestones. Are there other milestones that you should be kind of looking to hit if you're mid-career and then you're kind of starting to get ready for retirement?
Absolutely. So when you're getting closer to that retirement age, having 7 to 8 times your salary in savings and investments is a good goal. Mm-hmm. We always talk in financial education about how it's not how much you make, it's how much you spend. Yeah. So really doing the practice it's not fun, but really, keeping a spending journal, and just start like, how much did I spend today? Mm-hmm. How much am I spending this week? How much am I spending this month? And then it can be very eye-opening. And especially if you're trying to catch up to a retirement age, you've really got to figure out what your needs and wants are, and start realigning or cutting some things out maybe that you can then catch up on your savings plan, on your 401k plan, and things of that nature. As you get older, the government and most businesses allow you to save more of your paycheck than when you begin. So you really got to start looking at those to try and catch up, to retirement time.
Well, when we wrote checks, it was pretty easy. You put the amount in the check register, and you kind of see where everything's going. But Ben and I were just talking about, there are apps that help you do this now. So it doesn't have to be as difficult as it sounds, right? It's just essentially data entry, and it can kind of give you a picture of where your money's going, right?
Absolutely. And if you use your debit card or a credit card for most things, you can download all your spending for several years into a spreadsheet, and it'll categorize it by spending type. Yeah. So, I was just talking to a group the other day, and they had gone through this process, and I was following back up with them. And a gentleman said that he knew he spent a lot of money on Mountain Dew, but until he went through that process, he was spending $300 a month on Mountain Dew, right? Which, I like Mountain Dew, but he quickly realized that was too much. And then, if you think of just cutting that in half, he's freeing up $150 a month in cash flow that he can put towards debt, that he can put towards retirement, or that emergency savings account. Right. So it's a really eye-opening experience. It's not easy, but you will learn a lot if you can start a financial journal or download that information.
So for people who are getting ready for retirement, we talked about how much you need. Are there other activities that they should put in place, or things they should be putting in place to help that?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different investment vehicles. One thing, you want to be safer on the investment side. When you're younger, you can take a little more risk. You have time to make it up. When you're getting close to retirement, you're going to want to be in some more safer investment vehicles. So things like I-bonds, which will keep your money on pace with inflation, is very important to people that are getting ready to retire. Maximizing those Roth and 401k and IRA dollar amounts per year. You really want to start doing that as much as you can. And then again, it's about realigning. It's about needs versus wants, and just realizing that your security in retirement is more important than maybe cappuccinos, right now. So
preparation is key, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your information.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Now we're joined by Amber Rasco of German American Bank. Amber will be speaking to us about the financial steps required to take when looking into buying a home and home loan approval. Thank you for being with us, Amber.
Well, thank you for inviting me here.
Of course, purchasing a home is a big topic right now, and some of the problems in terms of finding homes. But what should be deciding factors when someone's considering purchasing a home versus renting still?
Well, you really got to look at the pros and cons of both, of renting and purchasing a home. So with renting, you're really not building any equity in something that you own. Okay, so if you're a homeowner, you're building equity, and it's something you can pass down to your family. If you're renting, you don't have to worry about home maintenance.
Right.
So if something breaks, you don't have to worry about how am I going to pay for that. You just call the landlord. And so you really got to look at your budget and your spending plan and see, can I really afford to be a homeowner and make those repairs, lawn care, and all of that as well.
So when someone's thinking that they're going to consider purchasing a home, what should they start to do to prepare? How long in advance should they prepare and start be thinking that I've got to get these things in order before I should even consider applying for a home loan?
Yes, usually I like to tell people at least a year. Definitely take a look at your credit report. If there are things in there that you need to fix, let's say you have something comes up on your credit report that is showing some late payments, or you need a dispute, it's not yours. And so if you need some correction on your credit report, get that taken care of and then give it some time to be removed from your credit report before you get pre-approved. That's my recommendation. Of course, you can go get pre-approved if you would like and just kind of see where you are, and then see about your debt to income ratio. How much debt do you have paying each month? And if you need to reduce that a little bit to afford a home payment.
Awesome. And then do you suggest that people have a down payment? Should they be saving while they're trying to work on that, improving that credit score, that credit report, or what should people be thinking of in terms of savings and down payments?
It really depends on kind of looking at your budget. How much extra money do you have each month? Do you have enough to save? If you do, I would definitely recommend saving. But there are some mortgage products that don't even require a down payment. So you could do like a USDA rural development that doesn't require down payment. There are some low down payment options. So you have like 3%, 3.5% for your down payment. But I would recommend that you do save something, because something is always going to come up.
Most definitely. And when you talk about kind of fixing your credit score, your credit report, what types of steps do people need to go through other than disputing things? If you're late on payments or your credit score is low because of how much credit you're using, how do you start to kind of fix those issues before you purchase a home?
I would recommend setting up either auto pay so that you do not forget to make those monthly payments. So even just paying that minimum payment each month is great, and then you can make extra payments on top of that if need be. But just setting up auto pay for those debt payments so that your score doesn't show you had any late payments. That's one thing to do to help increase your score. Another thing is something called debt utilization ratio. So if you have a credit card, you don't want to max that out each month. And so you only want to use about 30% of that credit limit. So keeping that low is good as well.
Okay.
And even just doing some research online, like Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, they all provide some type of education on how to improve your credit score.
You mentioned the different home mortgage products out there. How does one go about deciding what kind of loan should I get? What factors should they be thinking about?
Well, that's really dependent on kind of what you want your interest rate to be, because each one of those products may have a different interest rate, what your monthly payment is going to be, what you can kind of qualify for. So it's really important to work with a mortgage specialist or a mortgage loan originator to kind of decide which one of these products work best for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the other side of this, what kind of factors go into how much the bank will approve you for? How do you figure out how much you're going to loan someone for a home?
So we usually like to do what's called like a pre-approval process, and so that's where we get some basic information from you. So we look at your income, we look at your employment history, we look at some bank statements, your assets that you may have, to kind of determine, okay, how much can you really afford? Can you make this monthly payment? Are you consistent currently making those debt payments that you have? And so we look at those, we look at different ratios that can kind of get a little hairy. I can get a little nerdy with it if you would like, but I'm trying to keep it a little overview. But we look at a lot of numbers just to see if you can really afford that payment. And we can always lower it, the sales price. Usually we can lower the sales price down if need be to see what you can actually afford.
Wonderful. Well, great information. Thank you so much for being with us, Amber.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Finally, we're joined by student financial success specialist, Dr. Sean Roby from the University of Southern Indiana. Dr. Roby will be going over financial literacy within a college environment. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
I can only imagine that the college environment might be a little more challenging whenever it comes to financial literacy and empowerment. What are some of the challenges, the big challenges you see financial or college students face, I should say?
On the comical side, I see students not wanting to adult right away.
Right.
So they kind of push that down the road. But what I really see, one of the things that I see is it's the mental math. They think, okay, aid's going to cover this, these expenses, and then come beginning of the semester, they have a gap and they don't know how to take care of it. Mm-hmm. So, depending upon housing, meal plan, number of credit hours, that aid depletes really quickly, and they're left with a financial gap. And that's truly where my area thrives. Mm-hmm. We sit down with the students, take a look at their college expenses, the decisions that they've made, mm-hmm. and we take a look at the aid that they're planning on receiving, and we compare that. And if there's a balance, okay, how do we plan on taking care of this?
Right.
Sometimes see the deer in the headlights look.
Right, yeah.
It's okay. We let them know that there's payment plans available. We can change some of our decisions mm-hmm. and make that fit a little bit better in a payment plan option, and then we feed that number into their actual budget. So we're using real numbers, not the mental math. Right. So then we can see, okay, can we truly afford our decisions? If not, we go back to the drawing board, make adjustments to housing, meal plan number, credit hours, and get us into a more comfortable spot when it comes to our finances, at least for college.
Are you finding now that we have so many tools at our fingertips that more students are coming prepared, that they have maybe a Mint app or something like that that helps them manage their spending? Mm-hmm. Or do you find that they're kind of coming in clueless and you're having to start at square one?
I notice, especially we also work with high school students, I'm noticing more and more high school students are becoming prepared, at least the students that we're working with. With regards to college, I'm doing workshops and presentations, and I just ask, how many of us budget? Few raise their hands. Right. So to your point, we have access to all of this information. If we could all watch a video or use an app, probably 60 to 70% of us wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. Right. So that's truly where my area comes into play. We walk with students through their financial situations, hopefully to financial success and out of financial stress.
Well, and for college kids and young adults, it's really hard to look long term. Yes. How do you have any tips or tricks for parents in terms of, as college kids are getting their first job and you're helping counsel them to look for retirement plans yes. or 401ks, how do you get students to start to think long term so that they can start with a solid future?
Actually, this is my favorite workshop. I do a wealth building workshop, and I start off with students drawing what it means or what it looks like to be wealthy to them. Oh, okay. So they actually put it on paper, and then I have them define what it means to be wealthy. So then you take them down the path. Okay, so if you achieve your goal and you achieve your goal, does it matter if she achieves hers? No. We all got to stay in our financial lane. Now that we have our goals outlined, mm-hmm. I walk them through, okay, so how much money do we want to make in retirement? Taking it 40 years from now to today mm-hmm. and walking to the point of how much they would need to start putting back this month. So again, taking it from 40 years from today to now.
Right. The here and now is where they usually like to live.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So whenever it comes to incoming college students, mm-hmm. student loans, big yes. topic mm-hmm. in the news all the time, and managing those and not getting your head too far underwater. Mm-hmm. So as people are looking to go into college or looking for a higher education, mm-hmm. what do you say, what types of advice do you have for getting into student loans, and what do you look for, those types of things?
Well, first, I like to reiterate to students that aid may not cover everything. So I see a lot of students come in and they think, well, it's just going to cover everything. I can have the college experience. Well, depending upon the housing, meal plan, number of credit hours, if you're working or not, it starts to deplete really quickly. Right. Then, okay, once we get past that and they understand, okay, my aid might not cover everything, understanding what's free, say free, meaning a student doesn't have to pay back compared to loans, what they will have to pay back. So understanding that scholarships, grants, merit awards, they won't have to pay back, but you start getting into your subsidized, unsubsidized, plus loans, alternative loans, those you have to pay back. And that's where it's important for them to not only understand they have to pay it back, but what does that impact look like 4 years from now? Because I hear all the time students say, oh, you know what, I don't want to borrow, but I'll pay for it later. I'm like, no, you don't pay for it later. Your future self pays for it later.
Right.
So while current self is having fun, future self stresses out about how they're going to take care of college. So if you're worrying about it now, just imagine how you're going to feel 6 months after graduation.
Interesting.
So try to help them navigate those decisions early on in the process.
So any quick trips or tips for long-term financial strategies beyond wealth building that college students can kind of implement?
I know it's not as sexy and glamorous investing and you're thinking about the future, but really coming down to budgeting. Okay, how much am I making? How much am I planning to spend? And doing that before the month begins so we can identify potential problems before they happen and make adjustments. I see time and time again, students, they come in, they don't realize how much they're spending until you put it on paper and they're like, I'm spending that much on restaurants? Yeah. There's your retirement. You're giving it to Starbucks. You're giving it to, sorry, Hacienda, it's my favorite, one of my favorite restaurants here, but you're paying other people besides yourself. So getting into the habit of budgeting, so when you get out of college, you have your first full-time job, you're making good money, we're getting that practice for free versus having to pay stupid tax later.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for all your great information.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. And thanks again to all of our guests for joining us to discuss financial literacy. Next week, we'll be talking about road conditions and some road projects that are coming up in our community. Thanks for watching WNIN Newsmakers.